Bhagavata Sevya Bhagati Atamashoki Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Nikama Kapalurgaritam Padam Shukamakaramitta Dravisamitam Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamaraya Mahora Horisikububayakam Krishna Swadam Phagade Dhamavini Samita Karona Stadvisamasha Parona Kodunoditam Twamapi Adavashuta Vishutam Vivu Samapyayana Vidam Vinyaksaram Pragyahi Doho Mahoritaram Sankleshanam Santi Nanyataham Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinu Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Jayadam Sarudo Pangom Mama Mandera Materagati Matsavasha Padambo Jara Dhanamada Mohanam Sriman Rasa Rasaram Vivam Sivada Karsan Venushanurgo Gopinata Sriyasaham Divyad Vinidharani Kapadrumada Srimad Radnagada Shimashana Shri Sirada Shila Govana Prestita Vihi Sivamanusmanami Namo Brahmane Devaya Go Brahmanya Taya Chaji Garitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha Om Aganatim Randa Shanganangana Sadakya Chaksurun Miritam Yana Tashmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yana Bhutare Shayam Rupa Karamayam Dharati Swaparandikam Vandeham Sri Guru Siyata Parakamanam Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Sha Sri Rupam Sagadatam Sahaganata Ganatam Vitam Stam Sadevam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakan Vitam Sha Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutare Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Shami Tinamanaste Sarasati Dev Garavani Patari Nirvishesa Sanivadi Vaskadade Sada Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaur Bhakta Bindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. Welcome, Transcendental Tuesday, Rob and Brent, thus far. Yesterday we talked on Motivational Monday about what qualities Krishna looks for in order to award a living into his association. What kind of people does Krishna like to spend time with, invite into his kingdom, into his house, to hang with? And the first quality is mercy. Lord looks for those in whom mercy is a prominent feature, just as mercy is the most prominent feature in himself. He feels our pain. He empathizes with our plight in this material world, and he moves heaven and earth so far as he's able to encourage us to get home back to God. He can't kidnap us back home, bind us hand and foot, throw us in a van, and take us back home. That choice we have to make ourselves. If you drag someone into your home, you identify someone, and you drag them into your home. No matter how nice your home is, they're going to resent the fact that you dragged them there and they didn't come there by choice. If you kidnap someone, and even if you take them to a place that's more opulent than where they came from, better food, better accommodation, better standard of living, they're not going to appreciate what you've done. They're going to resent what you've done because it wasn't their choice. It wasn't their choice. People will accept lower standard of living, lower nutrition, lower residential facilities, and yet be more satisfied because they can tell themselves, this is what I wanted. But nobody reacts well to being forced to anything, and nobody knows that better than Krishna himself. So his efforts to get us back home, back to God, it stopped short of coercion. Persuasion, yes. Inspiration, yes. Direction, yes. Illumination, yes. Coercion, no. Force, no. But Krishna does everything that it is gentlemanly and proper to do, but because we're not proper and we're not gentlemen, we're not tuned in to Krishna's transmissions, we don't have the eagerness to get out of this material world. Bhaktisiddhanta used to tell his disciples, no gentleman is happy in this material world. No gentleman wants to stay in this material world. It's a place of birth, death, disease, and old age, hunger, thirst, eating, sleeping, mating, defending, struggle for existence. Look at all the things that are going on, as if we couldn't figure it out ourselves, almost to underline the point. There's war in Ukraine. There's war in the Middle East. This morning, the news is that it's pretty much a full-out war now on Israel's northern front as well as on their western front. And the other Iran proxies from the east want to get into it as well. So if you hadn't got the point up until about a year ago, certainly I would hope that you're not so dull as to not have gotten the point by now that this material is a dangerous place. It's a place of pain. It's a place of misery. Even if you say, for argument's sake, well, I've adjusted. I've adjusted to the pain. I've adjusted to the misery. And I'm going to take the position of the Stoics. I'm going to take it on the chin and just put up with it and have a good attitude no matter what. There's still a problem. Krishna covers that. If you counteract my assertion that this is a material world by saying that, well, I can adjust my attitude, I can lower my expectations. Someone said, if you don't have any expectations, you can't be disappointed. So the Stoic would be one who lowers his expectations in order not to be disappointed down the line. Okay, let's say you do that. Let's say you offer your counter argument to the assertion that this material world is miserable. And you say, I can deal with that. I can adjust to that. Okay, well, there's another problem. And that is, it's not only dukkalium, it's not only miserable, but it's also a shashvatam. There's a couple of flies in here there. People leave the door open upstairs. They walk in and they don't even close the door behind them. Then we're faced with the ethical dilemma. Should I put up with the flies, let them spoil my live Facebook broadcast, or should I swap them? That issue wouldn't come up if we simply closed the doors when we came in the building. Nevertheless, the problem that still remains after you make your mental adjustment to the misery of this material world, the problem that still remains is it's not only miserable, but it's also temporary. And no matter how much you make your peace, you find your space, your niche, you'll not be able to stay there. Prabhupada said, if you found a niche in this material world where you're okay with the conditions such as they are, you can at least tolerate them, then you should make an arrangement. You can stay in that niche forever. And yet who can do that? For one who's born, death is certain. Anyone who's ever born died, even big demigods like Lord Brahma himself is going to die in due course of time. So how are you not going to die? So the very fact of death, the very fact of the change of body and the temporality of life means that you'd have to be a madman and certainly not a gentleman to put your hopes in this material world, to make long-range plans. Prabhupada talked about Paris, not only the Arc de Triomphe, the Champs-Élysées, or not only the buildings that Napoleon built with the money he'd pilfered by conquering other countries to celebrate his conquests, not only the buildings that he'd built to thump his chest and sing the praises of France and France's armies are still standing, but even the apartment buildings in Paris were built by Napoleon. They're meant to last for hundreds and hundreds of years. Everything about Paris is so solid, substantial. But Prabhupada said, Paris is still there, standing, but where's Napoleon? Napoleon's gone. Each one of us, because we are eternal, we're a spirit soul in this body. Our existence did not begin when this body began, nor will it end when the body terminates. So we have a sense that we pre-exist and post-exist this body. We have a sense that we're eternal. So there's a tendency to make long-range plans. But the evidence is that in this world, long-range plans are not going to be fruitful, at least not for the planner. They might be for future generations, because you cannot stay. You're going to get kicked out. Whether you're ill-adjusted or whether you're nicely adjusted, doesn't matter what the state of your adjustment to the shortcomings of the material world is. The fact is that everybody no matter how dumb you are, no matter how intelligent you are, no matter how privileged you are or how inured you are to asceticism, doesn't matter whether you're a yogi or a non-yogi or whether you're male or female, everybody without exception gets kicked out. So this material world is not a place for a gentleman. Bhakti-siddhanta put it even more graphically on another occasion. He said, if you go to the latrine, you go to the outhouse. Everybody knows outhouses are particularly obnoxious. I don't even have to, I don't think I have to convince anybody of that. That's a given. But who wants to take up permanent residence in an outhouse? You go there, you hold your breath, you put a clothespin on your nose, you do your business as quickly as you can, and then you literally bolt out of there and slam the door behind you and get to fresh air as soon as you can. Who in their right mind would want to camp out in an outhouse? Take your time, bring the newspaper, have your cup holder, look at some videos on Prime. I hope you're laughing along with me. I hope I hope you're not seriously considering that proposition, because that would not speak well for your sanity. So the quality, the number one quality that Krishna is looking for in those that will hang out with him in the future is mercy. And the second quality is happiness. Who's happy? Like permanently happy, substantially happy, not just, oh, I ate something, I'm hungry, I ate something, now I'm happy. And then I overeat the next minute, now I'm full, now I'm uncomfortable. Real happiness is defined as that which has no cessation. False happiness is that which has no endurance. You eat a nice meal, you're hungry, you get relief from hunger by eating that nice meal, but then you can't stop eating because we want unlimited satisfaction. No, it's not enough just to make the hunger go away. We want to drive past that. We want to drive past that because we have a deep seated desire to be happy. And if we get a little relief from suffering by eating, rather than eating to a judicious point and stopping, Chanakya Pandit says, when you eat, you should only fill 50% of your belly, leave 25% water, 25% air. That's the best. But who stops? Who stops at 50% in this, tongue-oriented consumeristic age? We go beyond that. Our desire is that if it gives us a little happiness, we want more and more and more and more, because we're using that as a means to try and reach out for permanent happiness. But the result is just the opposite. After we eat more than our quota, we start to feel depression, we start to feel sick, indigestion, so on and so forth. So Krishna is looking for people who are permanently happy, whose happiness is based on the principle of spirit and not just the principle of relief from material suffering. We experience hunger, thirst. There's the necessities of eating, sleeping, mating, defending. So when we successfully defend each other, we feel a little happiness. Just like if you're in a football team or a basketball team, and you won a title last year, and then there's a up and coming team, and it's a big, much heralded matchup, and you beat them. So what you did is you defended your title. You kept them away. You kept them at bay. But then, they're going to come back again. They're going to come back again, and they're going to make those adjustments because you're in their sights. They're not going to stop coming until you're deposed. So the happiness that you get from fighting off the contender is just temporary, because it's inevitable that you will be deposed. No one remains champion for more than 1 or 2 years maximum. This is not happiness. Happiness springs from the soul. And the soul's happiness is not conditional on whether you win or lose, whether you're up and down, whether you're a champion or whether you're in the basement of the league, whether you make the playoffs or you don't make the playoffs. It's nothing to do with that. Happiness comes from the soul. The soul is actually by nature happy. One, I think it was the Buddha, he said, there is no path to happiness. Happiness is the path. Happiness is the path. Now, Krishna is called Namachintamani Chaitanya Rashavi Purna Sudha Nitya Muktam Binad Bam Bam Nam No. Why do we keep eating food beyond the time when it's good for us? Because we don't feel purnam. We feel incomplete. And we feel that if we eat more food, that'll help make us more complete, which it doesn't do, obviously. So what is the path to completeness? And if we find that path, that will be the path to satisfaction and happiness. And the answer is right there. It's that Krishna is present within his name. He's full. Krishna is full, and therefore everything about him is also full. His name, his form, his pastimes, his paraphernalia, anything that's connected with Krishna has Krishna's ability to fully satisfy the soul. Krishna creates millions of universes, and in those millions of universes, there are millions of planets. Is any one of those planets lacking? Is any one of those planets lacking in terms of natural resources to provide a living to all the inhabitants of the planet? No. Every single planet is fully equipped to provide food, shelter, housing, transportation to the inhabitants of whatever planet it might be. You know, people say there's only life on Earth planet. No, our information is there's life on every planet. And not only that, every planet is created in such a way that it fully supports the inhabitants of that planet. Not their greed, but it supports their need, whatever they need to keep body and soul together. To go beyond that is not healthy for the body. It's not healthy for the soul. It's not healthy for the mind. Go to a certain point, take your quota, be satisfied with that, use the balance of time saved to execute Krishna consciousness and go back home, back to God. Because after all, this is not our home. This is a place full of misery. It's also temporary. Our home is a place full of bliss, which is eternal. And so not only adopting those practices in this life, which will get us back home, back to Godhead, are productive of happiness, but of course we're headed ultimately to the spiritual world where there is no sadness whatsoever. So our prospects, our future is very bright, and for that we can be happy. And we can also be happy in the now because the process for getting to the world of happiness is happy itself. People may commute, spend hours in the traffic, going to work, coming back, living in an artificial environment with fluorescent lights and bickering in the political atmosphere of the office, getting beat up throughout the day, come back in the night, turn on the TV and zone out with a TV dinner, go to bed, repeat, do the whole thing over and over and over again. In order to try to get some respite from the material necessities of finding food, finding a place to sleep, finding some shelter, defending yourself, keeping alive, keeping the breath within your body another day. But the happiness which is available in the spiritual world is unlimited, eternal, ever-increasing happiness. And not only that, but a lifestyle, a devotional lifestyle, where one simplifies one's need. He doesn't stretch himself out. He doesn't flirt with hypertension, anxiety by prostituting himself for a salary. Devotees try to identify what they're good at, what they like, and irrespective of what the remuneration would be, they try to step right into the middle of the aptitudes and talents that God gave them and act according to their own natures. This is the Varnashram, Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras. Devotees are not driven by peer pressure, by the norms of the culture, by the amount of the salary. They choose their vocation. They choose what they shall commit to based on what they love, based on how Krishna created them, and based on the good they can do to themselves and others. So not only are they shooting for a happy last chapter, going back to the spiritual world, but in the now, they can be fully happy and fully satisfied. They can not only look forward to the destination, but they can enjoy the journey. You may have to give up some things in order to get there. You may have to give up illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, and gambling. but it's worth it. If you want to go on a cruise, a Caribbean cruise, you have to give up a couple $1,000s to buy your ticket. But many people do that. They have huge cruise ships all over, circling the planet. I get emails almost every day, a new Caribbean cruise or Princess Lines or whatever it is. They have a new luxury liner. The companies are creating more and more of these huge ships, which themselves are like cities, because obviously there's a demand for it. People are happy to give up $1,000 or $2,000 in order to go on a ship because the ship is better than their home. The ship offers running courts and multiple restaurants and shuffleboard courts for the older people and swimming pools and water slides and who knows what all else. And you might say, well, why would someone give up their hard-earned money in order to be confined, in order to be trapped, imprisoned, in a sense, on a ship? And the answer is the ship, it has it all, you know. But not only that, not only they get the luxuries, the amenities of the ship, but the ship stops every so often. The ship stops at a nice beach or a Caribbean island or a South Sea island. They get off and they shop and they go hiking and they go swimming and so not only is the journey enjoyable, not only can you enjoy the journey, but the destination is also idyllic. The devotional service is a win-win. What you're doing now is blissful, it's fulfilling, it's meaningful. You tap into unlimited happiness now in order to enjoy unlimited happiness in the aftermath as well. So therefore, it's no wonder that the great saints and sages exhibit happiness themselves. Devotees are never grim, never morose. If you look at a devotee, it never looks like they just eat a lemon. Their corners of their mouths are upturned, their eyes are crinkled. They've got smiles on their faces, especially after they have just performed some merciful activity. You never know. You know, I remember when we used to go out chanting every single day in Australia. We went out every day for the 5 years I was in Australia. And it didn't matter how you felt before you went out in the streets chanting and distributing books. You always felt better when you came back. Before going out, you might have felt, well, I have a cold, I have a cough, I don't feel like it, I'm tired. But after coming back, after going out for 3 or 4 hours at Sankirtan and reaching out to the fallen conditioned souls, and then returning to the temple, I always felt really up. It was a definite, guaranteed mood changer. So devotees become happy by extending the mercy of Krishna to the fallen souls by going out, singing the names of Krishna and distributing literature. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Udilo Aruna Pura Babagi, Dwijamani Pura Agagi Bage. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, go out into the streets and shout the names of Krishna and wake people up from the sleep that they're engaged in the lap of Maya. Encourage, you sing the names of Krishna and you encourage everyone else to sing the names of Krishna. In this way, everybody will awaken from their slumber on Maya's lap, awaken to the glories of the Lord, awaken to the fact that this world is not our home. Our home is an eternal place of bliss and knowledge. Awaken to the fact that we're not these bodies. We're not temporary. We're not subject to birth, death, and awaken to the fact that we're eternal, that there was never a time when you did not exist, nor in the future, no, any of us cease to be. When you go out into the public and you spread this message, you never know what's going to happen. But I'll tell you one thing, it's never negative. There's never any negative result. It's always positive. It's always surprising. It's always unpredictable. We have Agni Dev staying with us now for the indefinite future. He's leaving this morning for 3 weeks in Bombay, but basically said this is where he hangs his hat because there's so much preaching. So he's looks for places to go out and chant, and who wouldn't want to go out and chant with Agni? He's got the most beautiful voice on the planet. So I told him there's a food truck Friday in Spanish Fork, the park downtown. In the evening, a lot of food trucks congregate and people come and buy their meals. There's picnic tables, there's a play area for the kids. So I said, why don't we don't go down there? So we went down there. I have a little Bluetooth speaker. Well, it's not so little. It's pretty powerful, actually. And we sat down. There was Krishna Prasad, myself, Mayapur. Uh, I don't know, that 4 or 5 of us. We sat in the grass and we chanted for, an hour and a half or 2 hours. In between, when Agni was taking a break, I would do some of her rap songs. And there were, maybe 100 people, and coming and going, maybe 150, 170, maybe 200. It wasn't many people. It was pretty sparse. Didn't seem like we were using our time in the most profitable way possible. But there was a kind of a table there with some people from a church. They were also there, like we were, to pass out literature and spread their message. And they came over and they got to talking to us. Turns out they've been to the temple. They appreciate the temple. They're very much into interfaith relationships. And they said, we're going to come to the temple and bring some friends. And sure enough, they came to the temple. They brought 5 or 6 friends to the Sunday feast. Not only that, but there was a fellow with a backpack just sitting 10, 20 feet away from us. He described himself as having a nomadic lifestyle, but he wasn't dirty. He wasn't, he's free from drugs, alcohol. He just likes to travel and not be tied down. And his name was Jake Indigo. Turns out we were Facebook friends. He'd had a prior interest in Krishna consciousness. He just happened to hear the chat. He came and he sat and he spent that time with us. And later on, he reached out to me through Facebook and asked about the volunteer program. Could he come and do work and spend some time? I said, we have a minimum of 2 weeks. So he came and he spent 2 weeks here and he enjoyed it. And we enjoyed him and the fruits of his work. And then he moved on. So you'd think that from just going on a Friday night to a food truck rally in Spanish Fork, Utah, where maybe 175 people at the most came and went during the period of chanting, there wouldn't be any result. And yet we were so pleasantly surprised. We got a volunteer who came on board and lived with us and experienced Krishna consciousness in an immersive way for 2 weeks. And then we had another 8 or 10 people show up the sun just from going out at one time. You never know. And I'll tell you what, you're never disappointed and you're always pleasantly surprised. This brings me in mind of an incident I'll never forget. When we joined in Australia, as I mentioned, we went out, 7 days a week, 6 days a week at least, on Sankirtan, chanting and distributing back to Godheads. In those days, 70 to 75 back to Godheads were all we had in the beginning. Later on, we have Teaching Lord Chaitanya, and then we had the Blue Macmillan Gita. But book distribution in 70 to 71 basically was magazine distribution back to Godhead. So we had gone, and I was distributing magazines beside the chanting party. And there was a young lady, very nice, clean looking young lady, maybe early 20s. Turns out later she was a registered nurse. As you know, nurse is a good profession. Nurses make good money. They've got their financial security is intact for the rest of their lives. And her name was Renate Clark. She walked up to me and she said, she wasn't from Australia. She was from Germany. She was touring in Australia. And she walked up to me and she said, I got a Back to Godhead from your party yesterday. I read it and I came looking for you. I've been looking for you all over downtown. I found you and I want to become a devotee. And so I was thinking, you never heard of Hare Krishna before 24 hours ago. You met some devotees, which must have looked, you had no point of reference. You've never seen anything like this before. It must have been strange. You must have had normal questions and reservations and inquiries and maybe some doubts, of course. So you got not even a book, but you got a magazine. You read the magazine and now you want to commit your life. You've already invested time and money to become a nurse. Your future in the material world is absolutely secured. And you want to basically step past that and, move into a temple, sleep on the floor, get up, early in the morning, chant, come out like us, during the, and I mean, of course, I know that that's the most satisfying lifestyle, but to go from 0 to 60 within 24 hours, that was surprising to me. And so I kind of had my doubts, but I told her where the temple was and I invited her to come along. Sure enough, the second day, 48 hours after her first encounter with devotees, she moved into the temple, became a very great devotee. Her initiated name was Nartaki. And yeah, I mean, you never know. You never know. Krishna's in the heart. Some people, they may have doubts. They may put the devotees at a distance. They may take one look and say, whoa, 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 I don't see myself doing that. And some people, because of the pious background of their previous life, they no sooner see the devotees and they say they can see themselves doing that. They, from the get-go, they consider, that looks like something I might want to investigate. That looks like something that I might be part of down the line. And it all depends on one's background as well as the causeless mercy of the Lord. But the point is, nothing is set into motion, nothing happens unless you bestir yourself and get out there. So in the process of going out or extending oneself, we're also going out on Zoom, we're also going out on Facebook in a sense. In that process, you actually invoke the two qualities which Krishna finds most attractive, the quality of mercy and the quality of happiness. You never saw a devotee out in public chanting or reading books looking morose or depressed. They're always upbeat, they're always happy because they're right in the middle of what God wants done in this world. They're happy. I heard a story that one devotee in India was distributing books, and a man came up and just started shouting so that everybody could hear within 100 yards. He said, the Gita is useless. The Gita is, won't make you happy. You're wasting your time. You're better, going to business school, taking up, for instance, a nursing profession. All the Gita does is put paint on your forehead, dress you in bed sheets, make you do wacky stuff, give up a prosperous materialistic future and sleep on the floor. Of course, that's an exaggeration because most devotees, they have families, they have decent income, they have a decent salary. They don't necessarily have to be monastic. They don't have to give up all of that and live within the temple, but they have to make everything God-centered. So when this man was ranting and raving in a negative way about the Gita and Krishna consciousness, a very intelligent devotee asked him, have you read the Gita? The man said, yes, I've read the Gita. Then the devotee negated his argument. He defeated the man by saying, then you must be aware of the fact that in the beginning of the Gita, Arjuna was practically suicidal. He was in the deep pit of depression. You could have compared Arjuna like a dancer who's trained their whole life to go on stage for their Arangi Ketan, their coming out. Everything they've done has been invested in that moment of officially coming out as a professional dancer, and all of a sudden they get cold feet, literally, and they don't want to go on stage. That would be a comparable situation to Arjuna, having fought for the right cause his whole life, and now having the denouement, the coup d'état, the final act in the story is to eliminate all the powers of darkness in one place on the Kurukshetra field. From the point of view of Arjuna's trajectory, his training, his vocation, this is the best golden opportunity. Everything has led to this point, and Arjuna's getting cold feet. He's not sure he wants to fight. He's depressed. He says, better they kill me unarmed and unresisting rather than I fight with them. That means he'd rather die than fight. So if that isn't the definition of depression, I don't know what is. And yet after hearing the 700 words of the Bhagavad Gita, which Krishna poured into Arjuna, his depression was gone. Not only is he not depressed, not only is he no longer not confused, not only is he not suicidal, but he's positively jacked up. He's pumped up like you wouldn't believe. Nashta moha shmitira tatprashanam stito shminga karisha seva chovida. says, after hearing your destructions, my despair, my despondency, my negativity, my defeatism, my depression, it is all gone. It is all gone. It was defeated by you, just like the sun defeats the early morning fog and dissipates it with its warming, illuminating rays. All that defeat, all that depression is gone. And now I am completely enthusiastic, completely encouraged to go ahead and use my talents and abilities. I now recognize that this is not a negative situation. This is a situation which was handcrafted, which was custom made for me to complete my own mission of ridding the world of negativity and darkness. And after doing this, I realized that this conversation will be echoed throughout the ages. The devotee asked this man, are you aware of the fact that the Gita took Arjuna from the pits of depression to the heights of purposefulness and meaningfulness? Oh, because the message of the Gita, the name of Krishna is form, pastime, paraphernalia, are non-different from the Lord. And Krishna himself is the form of pleasure. He's the form of happiness. He doesn't represent happiness. He doesn't model happiness. He doesn't lead us on the path of happiness. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, brothers and sisters, he is happiness. So if you associate with Krishna, if you intersect with Krishna, or even more importantly, Krishna crisscrosses the world in the form of his pure devotees. If you intersect Krishna through his devotees, they're happy, they're merciful, and those qualities will rub off on you, and your life will be successful. So we'll talk more tomorrow on Wisdom Wednesday about the qualities that attract Krishna, but I think we've discussed fairly exhaustively how Krishna appreciates those who are brimming with mercy after his own example, and how Krishna is happiness himself, doesn't represent happiness, not a symbol of happiness, not a path towards happiness. His body is made of ananda. His body is made of bliss. And by associating with his devotees, with his name, one also automatically becomes happy as well. So these are the topmost two qualities that Krishna looks for in those who are going to be taken back to home, back to Godhead. And we'll talk about further qualities tomorrow. Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And Brent says you can make a dent in Kali even at a food truck rally. And another one, he says here, let me just get the full text. You can't kidnap someone and expect them to love you, even if you take them to a mansion with servants, a pool, and $1 million view. Love must be pure if it is to endure. It can't be based only on escape from pain or forced by ball and chain. Full satisfaction comes through mutual devotion. But you got to want to cross the material ocean if you want promotion to the happiness Krishna wants for you. That bears repeating. You can't kidnap someone and expect them, wait a minute, to love you, even if you take them to a mansion with servants, a pool, and $1 million view. Love must be pure if it is to endure. It can't be based only on escape from pain or forced by ball and chain. Full satisfaction comes through mutual devotion, but you got to want to cross the material ocean if you want promotion to the happiness Krishna wants for you. Wonderful. Wonderful. So only comments from Brent and Bhai Bobby this morning. Kind of thin as far as participation, but that's all right. Prabhupada said, if geology class is part of the curriculum at the college, then the class will be taught, even if there's only 4 students attended. So this is the science of how to release the soul from repeated birth, death, disease, and old age, and elevate it to the eternal spiritual world. So we're going to definitely teach it, even if we only get 1 or 2 people on a particular given day. And Rob also gave me a heads up. He's traveling this morning, so he won't be able to contribute any takeaways. Hope you enjoyed it. as you were, whoever joined us. And of course, this will be posted on YouTube for people to access, tap into in the future. Our YouTube channel, incidentally, has 1,238, I think, subscribers. And every month we get over 1,000 hours of viewing time. So I'll take your leave. It's Wednesday, Transcendental Tuesday, and we'll look forward to talking about the qualities of devotees of Krishna more extensively tomorrow. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare.